You start the recording before the music?
Keep an eye on what new cars are selling for, because right now, it's a bad time to buy a car. So if you sold this one, what are you gonna get?
Well,
I mean, how much you gonna get for the car? You probably get about 10,000 for it.
so what do you?
Mayor Rybeck, it looks like we have a quorum whenever you're ready to get started.
Those
Yeah.
sedans,
Mm-hmm.
and he would take it to work and.
Mayor, you're muted.
Why don't we get started with introductions while Mayor Rybeck's reconnecting here. I can go through the roll call. I'll start with municipal folks. Stephanie Hannon from Bannockburn.
Here.
Mark Huber, Beach Park.
Present.
Darren Monaco, Buffalo Grove.
Here.
Erica Frable, Hawthorne Woods.
Good morning here.
Ramesh Kanapareddy, Highland Park.
Here.
Michael Talbot, Killdeer. Michael. Drew Irvin, Lake Bluff.
Here.
Mayor Charlotte, Lake Bluff.
Here.
Jeff Hansen, Lake Bluff.
Here.
Byron, Lake Forest.
Here.
Let me see here. Kevin Carrier, Lake County DOT.
Here.
Joe Serdam, Lake County DOT.
Here.
Clay Johnson, Lindenhurst.
Here.
Gregory Jackson, Long Grove.
Here.
Mayor Rybeck is here. Pat DePiercio, Wadsworth.
Here.
Thomas Maillard, Waukegan.
Here.
Chris Garland, Waukegan.
Here.
Mayor McKinney from Zion.
Here.
Ed Gallagher, Pace.
Here.
Kama Dobbs from CMAP.
Here.
Jane Grover from CMAP. Tim McMahon
here.
from CMAP. Thanks, Jane.
Here as well, and good morning.
Good morning. Keisha Hart, CMAP.
Here.
Let me see here. Anthony Cefali, RTA.
I'm here. Thanks, Mike.
Dan Shug, Baxter and Woodman.
Here.
Dan Brinkman.
Here.
Dave Krieger.
Here.
Greg Elwinger.
Here.
Kristen Kalatowski.
Here.
Joel Christel.
Here.
Ben Metzler.
Here.
Is there anyone I missed? All right, we do have a quorum. We lose Mayor Rybeck. There he is. Looks like Mayor Rybeck is having some some audio issues. Um, Mary, you want me to keep rolling through the agenda here, or do you wanna, we wanna try to get connected?
Can we keep rolling?
Yeah, so, yeah, we can go through the minutes. Here is the next item on the agenda, looking for approval of the minutes of the May 5th. Typo on the slide here, not Transportation Committee, full council. That's what was put in the meeting packet for today. So we are looking for approval of that. So looking for a motion in a second.
So
Other-
moved by McKinney, by Zion.
Second, Hawthorne Woods.
All right. I will run through the roll call. Bannockburn,
Yes.
Beach Park,
Aye.
Buffalo Grove,
Yes.
Hawthorne Woods. Highland Park,
Yes.
Killdeer,
Aye.
Lake Bluff,
Yes.
Lake Forest,
Yes.
Lake County DOT,
Yes.
Lindenhurst,
Yes.
Long Grove,
Yes.
Wadsworth, Waukegan,
Here.
Zion.
Aye.
All right. We have Mayor Rybeck back. Does not look like it. Well, we can get into our current SCP program. Let me pull up that document. So we are approaching the end of federal fiscal year 2022, which ends at the end of September this year. We are on track right now to, there's Mayor Rybeck. Welcome back, sir.
I
We are on-
can't hear anything.
We can hear you now.
Oh, yeah, I don't know what to tell you.
Something's wrong with it.
Oh,
Oh, okay, good. I cannot hear a thing.
that's good.
No, it's not good.
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep going with the 22 and the current state of our program right now. So currently we are on track to spend all of our federal funding for fiscal year 2022. We have one more project targeting a letting it this year. That's Round Lake's Wild Spring Road resurfacing project.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Oh,
I'll call on the phone. Just a minute. I'm on the air here.
All right. So Round Lake's Wild Spring Road project is targeting the September letting. They have agreements in for that project.
This is
We did
very
provide
frustrating.
2 6-month extensions for Highland Park's phase 2 engineering phase of the Green Bay Road project, and for the cost increase for Clavey Road. Both of those phases already have either the phase 2 agreements or the amended construction agreements into IDOT for processing. So there's nothing from the council perspective that we can really do to sort of speed that up, but just to ensure that those funds aren't lost if the processing at IDOT goes beyond the fiscal year, we did grant the 6-month extension. Like I said, all those agreements are already in process, so we're well ahead of the regional deadlines, which is August for those agreements to be in. They've been in for a couple months now, so we're in good shape to spend all of our money. One item we do have on the agenda for this time, for this meeting, and we discussed this last week at the Transportation Committee, is a request from the Village of Vernon Hills to extend the right-of-way deadline that the council has for their Lakeview Avenue Parkway project. The council has a June 30th deadline of the federal fiscal year prior to when construction is programmed to have right-of-way certified. The purpose of that was to make sure we're not risking losing federal funds if a project is getting stalled because of right-of-way. Vernon Hills project, it's an intersection improvement at Lakeview Parkway and Route 60 in Vernon Hills. They have two pieces of right-of-way on the corners that have been submitted for right-of-way certification to IDOT, and two pieces that the village is in negotiations with and is reviewing counter offers on. They're actively working on the right-of-way. The council deadline is prior to the IDOT deadline. The project is targeting the January letting, and IDOT's right-of-way certification deadline for that is November. So they're seeking to extend our deadline to the November IDOT right-of-way certification. The Transportation Committee did discuss this last week and voted to recommend that extension. So we're looking for that action again today from the council to approve extending the right-of-way certification deadline to the IDOT deadline in November. If the project does get caught up in condemnation or other issues, then we can reevaluate and work. We'll have time to readjust our program and shift things around as needed. But right now, the project is moving forward with right-of-way. It's a priority for the village. I know I saw in the paper that this is going to be their 23 fiscal year 23 road program is this project. So it is a priority for Vernon Hills. And I know their consultant team is on here as well. If there's questions about this, we can answer them, but we are looking for approval of this today. Are there any questions on the request? So we'll be looking for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Motion by Zion,
Second by Talbot and Kildare.
All right, thank you. I will read the roll call. Bannockburn,
Yes.
Beach Park,
Aye.
Buffalo Grove,
Aye.
Hawthorne Woods,
Aye.
Highland Park,
Aye.
Kildare,
Aye.
Lake Bluff,
Yes.
Lake Forest,
Yes.
Lake County DOT,
Yes.
Lindenhurst,
Yes.
Long Grove,
Yes.
Wadsworth, Waukegan,
Yes.
and Zion.
aye.
All right, thank you, everyone. Let me switch screens again. So we're now into the 2022 call for projects and the recommended STP program for federal fiscal years. Should be 2023 through 2027. Let me pull up that document. So we received 59 applications during the call for projects. Those projects were scored and ranked based on the methodology that the council had approved last September. All of the projects scoring and ranking was released with the Transportation Committee agenda last week and also with this meeting. for both the roadways and intersections scoring and the pavement preservation scoring. So everyone could see how each project was scored individually. Then those project scores were combined into a single list, and we worked through starting at the top of the scoring and ranking to be able to build out our new program. So there's a lot going on this spreadsheet. I'll kind of walk everybody through what we have here. In the upper right of this, it's probably hard to see on this screen. I apologize. I know there's a lot to look at here, but these are the council marks of how much funding we have available in each fiscal year. So in 2023, we have $10.6 million. In 2027, $11.4 million. The list of projects here on this program, in the light green, those are the projects that are already in our active program. They are projects that were already in the program, did not need to reapply, and so are sort of coming off the top of our existing program, and then it's the new money that we're able to add new projects. So the projects below are the new applications that we received. Projects in the dark green are the projects recommended for funding. If a cell has this kind of orangish tan color, that means that project or phase is eligible for the use of toll credits.
Join the meeting.
Which allows for 100% federal funding without a required local match. And then cells that show the funding in red, that shows that either the dollar amount or the fiscal year differs from what the sponsor requested. So in some cases, we didn't have funding available in the fiscal year that the sponsor was looking for, so we moved it to a later year, and in some cases an earlier year, and in some cases we were only able to accommodate partial funding and to allow only a stage of a project rather than the entire thing that was applied for. So this is the recommended program. This was discussed last week at the Transportation Committee. The Transportation Committee did vote to recommend that the full council release this for public comment. We are required to release a recommended program for a 30-day public comment period. So that's the action we're looking to take today, is to release a recommended program for public comment. We are not approving this program today. Once we have the public comment period, which will, assuming that we release it or vote to release it today, that public comment period would open tomorrow and be open through the month of July. And then we have the Transportation Committee and the full council in August to review any public comment received and then approve the program. Once the program is approved by the Transportation Committee and the council, then the new projects would get added to CMAP's TIP and then go through the CMAP committee structure. So it would go first to the CMAP Transportation Committee and then to the CMAP board and MPO Policy Committee for final approval. That takes place in Transportation Committee in September. MPO Policy Committee vote is in October. And then that would be the final approval for the program.
So Mike, you're looking for a motion to release it for public comment?
That's correct.
I'll make that motion. Beach Park.
Second, Highland Park.
Can you hear me now, Mike?
Yes. Yes, I can.
We have a motion by Beach Park, second by Highland Park to move that forward. Are there any questions on the motion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Lake Bluff wishes to speak on this matter. This is Drew Irvin.
Go ahead. Okay, Mr. Irwin.
Good morning, everybody. I'll be respectful of everyone's time. I prepared a short presentation. Mike, can I share my screen?
I think you should be able to now.
All right, I sent the presentation to you. If you can share it and that's easier, that's fine as well. In fact, that's probably easier for me if you, there we go, perfect, thank you. So can everybody see this?
Yes.
Great, thank you. You go to the next slide, please. So what I want to communicate this morning is to talk about something that I guess we really hope to have the council correct us before it even went to this level. But for some reason that was not done. What I want to do is communicate there's a failure in this process that needs to get some immediate changes that will result in a different ranking. And I'm going to talk about what we think are the next best steps. So next slide, please. So this is a new process, new tools, new instruments. We gave, working with our consultant, accurate and complete responses to all the questions that were provided. It resulted in a ranking that does not reflect accurately the status of our project, which I suspect and imagine everybody on this call would be sensitive to and worried about themselves had they been in our seat. Unfortunately, our Green Bay Road project only received credit to be at phase 1 approval. That is not the status of our project. We have completed phase 2 going back a couple of years now. And that was how we were scored in the previous round. And this instrument that was used only scored as 98 points and shy of where we really are. We should have been scored at 118. Next slide, please. So the way we look at it, this is a failure of process. And what we are asking for, I'm sorry, how did you go? One more slide back? Did we go jump a slide here? No, next slide. You're right. All right, thank you. So the process needs to have some sort of QA, quality assurance, quality control step before this is released. As Mike said, he releases to the committee, and here we are in about a week and a half. And in fairness to Mike and others in this position, it seems to me that there should be some sort of conversation held with each applicant to clarify and verify the accuracy of the information, or in contrast, and I don't think this is better or worse, is having some sort of appeals process to address these things. Just as the council approved the Vernon Hills request for an extension regarding the right-of-way, securing the right-of-way for their Lakeview Parkway project, why isn't there a similar process for this to address any sort of discrepancies or nuances? There should be some other appeals process. This is a new process. This needs to get some revision to ensure fairness and accuracy and eliminate any ambiguity. These are engineers on this call, and the engineers that provide this information, we all stress for accuracy in everything we do. This is no different. And there's so much riding on this. It is incumbent upon us to get this right. It's a new process. And we believe that the council should expect and push for changes to this process to result in the most objective and fair process for all. Next slide, please. So I know there's a motion on the floor to approve. Our direction would be to not vote in favor of this, but rather to amend the motion to direct the council liaison to correct the rating for Lake Bluff, and the cards will fall where they fall. It would be the truth. It would be fair. I mean, I sound like I'm in a Rotary meeting, but it'd be fair, and it would be accurate. It would be, I think, again, what we would all want for ourselves and for our communities, and then release that corrected program for public comment. I think the longer this snowball rolls down the hill, the bigger this gets, and puts all of us under the microscope for not being accurate in what we're doing. Next slide. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions. We have our consultant on the phone and our engineer if there are specific questions. But again, out of deference and respect to everybody in time, I think we're asking for something very simple. The universe of exposure for the council is small. As far as we know, we were the only ones who got an inaccurate rating, and we just want to clean that up and move forward. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Mr. Irwin. I think one of on your first or second slide, you had mentioned that Lake Bluff provided accurate and complete responses to all the questions. There a slide, Mike, that we had?
I can pull up so I have this is the quarterly status update that was submitted. I have this is the email that was submitted on March 25th with the attachments for the project. This is the quarterly status update that was provided with the application. It shows that phase 1 engineering was complete in March of 2020. But in the phase 2 engineering section, all of these subsequent items prior to pre-final plans being submitted in August of 2023 are left blank. So the project was scored as having completed phase 1 engineering, which was documented on the form as phase 1 engineering is complete with design approval. There's opportunity in this form to show that the village had selected a phase 2 consultant, that they had held a phase 2 kickoff meeting, that they had gone to a federal coordination meeting. All of those steps are able to be completed regardless of whether federal funding has been awarded to the project. According to the village and what we saw with the application last time, that work has been completed but was not documented in this form. And so what the council guidelines, the application instructions that were posted with our project said that the quarterly status update needed to be submitted with the application. Our application at the top of the application said that a quarterly status update is required. And our instructions said that, council staff does not know the details of every project. I got 59 applications to score. We have 20 something projects in our active program that we're tracking. So I don't know the status of everybody's application. So what is submitted is what will be used. And that, that we were, even if inaccurate information is submitted, that's what we're going to use to score projects. So that was the process that staff followed. In terms of an appeals process, we do have written into our methodology that at any point in time, the council or the transportation committee, well, specifically the council, can vote to go outside of that approved methodology. It has a 2/3 vote requirement, but that is the process. That's why we have a committee, because we know that there are circumstances beyond what a methodology can capture in all projects and all circumstances. So that's why we have that written into the methodology. So that's where staff is coming from. The information that was provided here, there was an opportunity to show that phase 2 work being completed. For example, I have another quarterly status update here that also shows phase 1 design approval being received, shows when the phase 2 selection was done by the municipality, when their council selected the consultant, when they did the kickoff meeting, and still shows a future date for pre-final plans, but shows that phase 2 work has been done. So that's why the project was scored where it was. So it's, this council can decide to amend, the recommended program. That's perfectly within our rules. And if directed to do so, that's what we'll do. We'll make that change and then release that we can release an updated program for public comment. So from my perspective, either way is fine. It's up to this committee, this council, to decide how to proceed.
Hey,
And
Mr. Mayor, may I please respond?
I was just going to say that on the one that Mike presented, all that data that was highlighted in yellow, that apparently is what was not there on the original one. So he was working at a disadvantage. But yes, go ahead, Drew.
No, and Mike, we understand that, and we understand why Mike did what he did, and we're not faulting Mike at all. We're faulting the instrument and how it leads to some ambiguity. And it's something that we were looking at the previous methods to ascertain the status of projects with regards to completeness, phase 1 or phase 2 and the like. And we understand why he did what he did, and we can explain that. Would you please do that,
Years ago back.
Jeff? And then we can talk a little more, please.
So the blanks that Mike had looked at, we did a deep dive following the scoring, trying to figure out, is there something that we just missed? And if you look at the pre-final plans date, that's kind of the one where there are
Mike, could you bring that up again, please? That you were, thank you.
where there are two correct answers. We submitted the pre-final plans. IDOT won't look at them if you don't have funding, so they have to be submitted again in the future when you get funding. So we put a future date in there because we've always looked at these quarterly status reports as kind of the plan moving forward, not necessarily looking backwards. So that is kind of it's a question with two right answers. Now, up above that, a lot of those blanks don't apply to our project. Like we didn't have a coordination meeting. We wouldn't have had one yet anyway, because we don't have funding. The one item that we found that perhaps we could have included was the consultant selected date, which for us was back in 2019. So we were scored 98 points overall. And I believe if we would have included that line in our scoring, we would have gotten 5 points for having the consultant selected. But we're actually 20 points short. So I think we still, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, until you get the pre-final plans box checked, there still was 10 more points in the, the project readiness category that we wouldn't have gotten, and the sustained participant interest category. There's 5 points there that even had we put something in that line up above, I think we still would have been scored 15 points short of the project, just based solely on that pre-final plan submitted line. And that's where, this has all been heavily revised, and for good reason. And we thank Mike for all his work in shepherding the whole group to this point. I just think this was the test of this revised system, and it exposed one flaw. And unfortunately, that flaw in the pre-final plan submitted line had a pretty big impact on our project scoring in the program in general. So I think that is kind of where our position was, that even if we filled in some of those lines, if they were applicable to our project up above, like the other one you had shown, that we still would have been 15 points short of what the project was worthy of.
Yeah, and Mike has a hard job in doing this, no doubt, and he needs the most objective information so he can put out a list that's accurate, and that's all we're asking.
Mayor, we have a hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Our hand,
Erica Frable, Hawthorne Woods. May I speak, Mayor?
yes, please. Yes.
Okay, so, I completely appreciate Lake Bluff's position, and I respect their passion for wanting to try to get their project funded, but I'm uncomfortable with them calling the process fair and not accurate, and that we need to correct the program. I think those are unfair statements about the program. And, we started this whole program 4 or 5 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, with a task force or a subcommittee where we looked at putting together the rules. And the county, Mike worked really hard to put in place something that was fair. And we put those rules together. We presented them, Transportation Committee, we presented them at the full council. Everyone voted on them. There were multiple municipalities and consultants on that task force or that committee group. And then we worked to update those after we went through the first call for papers projects, and we made some updates to it. So I do believe that it's something we could look at the next time we review those rules again. But I just wanted to point those things out because, there's a lot of statements out there about it not being a fair and accurate process. And I do believe that the council has followed the rules that were set in place, and they're working really hard to keep that fair for everyone that submits a project. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
Mr. Mayor, may I address that comment, please?
Sure, go ahead,
Sure.
Drew.
Sorry. I agree with you 100%, Erica, and thank you for that. And I think just as I'm the village administrator here in Lake Bluff, I have the village president here. We are constantly looking at our regulations, our zoning codes, all of our regulatory environments, and amending them and our procedures to try to make them as best as we can make them, given the circumstances of the day. And that's all we're asking is we can do better. The village of Lake Bluff can do better. The state of Illinois, we can all do better. And that's what we're asking is like, it can't be perfect, and it won't be perfect after this change. Something else will pop, but we make changes to our application materials, our procedures, our assessments all the time. And that's all we're suggesting is that it can get better. And and as far as let's wait till the next time, why? That's to me, that is unfair, is that we know we can do better. We know this doesn't accurately reflect something. Why would we not change it now before it's even released formally to the public? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Drew. Are there any other hands up, Mike, that I'm not seeing?
I don't see any others.
Mike, you want me to, I can chime in. Mayor, if you're okay with it.
Highland Park, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, again, Drew, I think, I think Erica put it very well, but I just wanted to emphasize one more addition to those rules. It was not done hastily. It was a long process. And yeah, you're right. A process are not meant to be set in stone and they are to be changed, but how will it be fair for all those projects who submitted to change, because there's one project doesn't line up to change at the last minute. That's where we are all struggling here. It's not that we're not saying that we should not look at these rules again, but the question is, should we look at it because Lake Bluff has an issue? That's the point here. And that's where I'm not comfortable that we are making an exception because it did not fit, one rule. Yeah. As Erica said, as Mike said, as the mayor said, yeah, as a committee, a transparency committee, we can take a look at it. And then, yeah, if it is makes sense that let's make exceptions, we will. But to say that, everybody changes the process, we are doing the same. Our rules have never been set in stone. We revised it multiple times. So that's where we stand.
Okay, good.
Mr. Mayor, may I address Ramesh's comment, please?
Go ahead, Drew.
Thank you. And thank you for allowing me. Ramesh, thank you for that. And I think my answer would be is we did try to address it earlier, and that's why we're here. And the Transportation Committee didn't want to address it, and that's why we're here. So that opportunity had presented itself. It was not addressed then. We're here now to do it. Again, put yourself in our shoes. If the question is, is Lake Bluff, is the Lake Michigan blue or purple? And the answer is blue, but the procedure or the bureaucracy results in, oh, it was purple. Well, why would we allow that to move forward? None of us would allow that to happen in our communities, to go forward knowing that the output is inaccurate. And this is a simple thing. This committee does make changes. They just voted on changing the extension for Vernon Hills. Why is this any different? This is the perfect opportunity to do it before it's released to the public. It just makes all the sense to do it now and wait. It's inexplicable to make it wait. I don't understand that.
Were there parts of your application that weren't filled out correctly, and that's why you scored less points than what you feel you should have? That's my understanding of what happened. So I don't understand why it would be a flawed process if the application wasn't filled out, showing all the things that you could have scored points for.
I think because the instrument itself, this quarterly report, has answers that aren't wrong. They're just not the ones that give Mike the information he needs to accurately score him. That's, again, we're pointing to the instrument, not Mike, the instrument that he utilized to get the information to make a determination and subsequent rating. Jeff went through that. Happy to do that again, but the answer is we answer things correctly, but the answer does not necessarily line up with the data that Mike was using this to draw upon. It's like the previous model, if I understand things correctly, Jeff or Mike, please correct me, asked for a detailed schedule. And again, the goal of these series of questions are to ferret out where we are in the process. Is phase 2 complete? To what degree? You know, and so that was difficult for Mike to discern that because it was not in a uniform language, and it put him in a position of having to make a subjective decision, I believe. Again, Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, and that's why you modified your instrument with the goal of trying to, again, ferret out clearly where is this project with regards to completion of the various phases. And that's the issue, is that the question asks the question in a way that we can provide an answer that's accurate, but it's not going to result in the outcome or the information he's truly seeking. And that's what we're trying to do, is to modify that, at least at this point in time, and then to make sure it reflects accurately where we are in the process.
So I can respond to that. I mean, there is an issue that IDOT does not accept pre-final plans unless there's a PPI on file and funding has been secured. There's no argument there. And our council rules, the methodology says that we will award the most points in project readiness if pre-final plans have been submitted. But IDOT won't accept those. We've discussed this in the past at council meetings. We've discussed this every time we've looked at the methodology, that those two things could appear to be in conflict. What we decided 2 years ago, and we've continued this time, is if a project has started phase 2, shown that they've selected a consultant, that they're locally funding phase 2, that they're proceeding with phase 2, and they have design approval, those 2 items, we have given them credit for completing phase 2, even if they haven't submitted the plans to IDOT, because IDOT won't accept them. We've scored projects, not the full points, if they don't have design approval, even if they have a phase 2 consultant on board, because even if they got funding that day without design approval being received, you can't submit those plans. So if you have design approval and you've started phase 2 and you show that work, we have scored projects as if they have submitted pre-final plans. That's been consistent the last 2 calls, and that's how we've scored these projects. The issue at hand is that what was submitted did not show that the village hired a phase 2 consultant, had a phase 2 kickoff meeting, did a coordination meeting. None of those steps require funding to be in place. And the issue is not the pre-final plan date on this form. The issue is that those subsequent steps were not included for me to be able to score the project. So that's why I scored it the way I did, is because it shows phase 1 being done, but does not show a phase 2 consultant being hired. Does not show phase 2 work being done.
Hey, Mayor, this is Kevin Carrier with Lake County DOT, if I can jump in too, if you don't mind.
Yes, please do, Kevin.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm echoing kind of everyone's comments here, Erica's, Ramesh's, but also Mike's. I was going to say the same thing. I remember having these conversations, I think it was through TC and that subcommittee, about this very point, is that, you know, how do we get around this and give agencies credit for being in the phase 2 process, knowing that, you know, IDOT's not going to, you know, accept the plans if they don't have federal funds and stuff like that already. So if Mike, I don't know if this came prior to the last call or in between the last 2 calls, but I remember having these discussions, but also being respectful of, you know, we need to have some sort of a measuring stick. And unfortunately, it's the IDOT process is the way of doing it. But if we just left it up to everyone to say, hey, what's the status of your plan set, and had a line on the plans, there's for lack of a better term, there's no checks or balance for that. So everyone could just kind of fill in, yeah, I'm at pre-final plans, right? Well, it's not knowing that whether it's the IDOT pre-final plans or something less than that or whatnot. So I remember having these discussions, and certainly I think it's something that we can rediscuss again, but I don't think it's, I think it was a fair process. Like Mike said, I think we felt, he used the information that was at hand there. We've had robust discussions on this process back and forth. So it wasn't something that's kind of coming up for the first time. So maybe there's, like Jeff said, if they would have filled it out the first couple points, they would have gotten that 5 or so points for being in the phase 1 process. But there was a conscious decision, I believe, by the council to understand that we'll give some points, but until that pre-final milestone data is there, and plans are submitted to IDOT, that's when you would get kind of the full set of points. So just wanted to echo everyone's comments and double on what Mike said there too. I believe that we had some good discussions and banter and back and forth on this kind of topic at hand. So.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. There was one other hand up, Mike, but I don't see her. Kama, you had something else you wanted to volunteer?
Sure, Mayor. Thank you for recognizing me. This is Kama Dobbs with CMEP, for those who don't know me. I just wanted to kind of commend the council for following the methodology. It's in place for a reason. It's a fair process. And you do have this committee meeting today to appeal that process. I do want to say that I think CMAP would be pretty uncomfortable if this council decided to award additional points to one project without giving all applicants an opportunity to review their submittals. And so I would caution the committee not to set a precedent of just re-examining one project versus all of the projects. And the village's comments about ambiguities in the quarterly status update form are heard, and I would love for the village to participate with others throughout the region, because the entire region uses this form, in making improvements to that form. But I think that the instructions for the form are pretty clear, that there should be a response in every line. There's a column there with a drop-down box to select yes, no, or not applicable. And, none of those choices were made. So, again, I don't know how council staff with, nearly 60 applications could possibly know that information was missing. So that was really all I wanted to say today. And again, would invite the village and their consultants, if they've got proposals for improving that form that's used region-wide, we would love to hear those. So.
Good. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Anyone else had an opinion? As we would usually say, a vote here for yes would be to move the project forward. A vote of no would be to support Lake Bluff's position to do something different. I would phrase it.
Mr. Mayor, this is Drew Urban. One more final comment, please.
Yes, one final comment.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody's time and an understanding. Lake Bluff will be happy to work with CMAP and the council to improve the instrument and the process. And again, appreciate everybody's time and energy in this. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Irwin. Okay, if there are no other questions, we have a motion and a second on the floor to move the project forward as presented. Are you ready, Mr. Clemens, to
Yes.
call the roll?
Yes. Bannockburn,
Yes.
Beach Park,
Aye.
Buffalo Grove,
I apologize. Can you repeat my options again? I had a phone call here.
A vote for yes would to be move the project, pardon me, forward as it's presented. A vote of no would support Lake Bluff's position that it should be reviewed.
Okay, yes.
Hawthorne Woods,
Aye.
Highland Park,
Aye.
Killdeer,
Aye.
Lake Bluff,
No.
Lake Forest,
Yes.
Lake County DOT,
Yes.
Lindenhurst,
Yes.
Long Grove,
Yes.
Wadsworth,
Yes.
Waukegan,
Yes.
Zion.
Aye.
Right, that sounds like that motion carries.
Yes, so as mentioned, we will release this for public comment through the month of July. We will reconvene in August to review any public comment and take formal action to approve the recommended, or to approve our 2023 through 2027 STP program. Then it'll go through CMAP's committee process. So our next item is CMAP outreach presentation with Jane, and let me make you a co-host, Jane. You should be all set.
Thanks, Mike. Let's see. All right, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Mayor Ryback. Thank you, Mike and Council, for including CMAP in today's meeting agenda to share with you some regional perspective on challenges in Northeastern Illinois and some specific opportunities, including the new Federal Infrastructure Investment Act funding and how your local contributions help us optimize that funding to meet these challenges together. I'm joined here by, in addition to Kama Dobbs, my colleagues Tim McMahon and Kasha Hart, who are here to answer your questions if you need to go deep on the federal infrastructure legislation. But let's start with Lake County to begin. There's a lot to know about Lake County and its 52 municipalities, and the data tells only one story. Here's a link, we'll put a link in our chat here about with the community data snapshot that CMAP prepares for each county and every municipality in Northeastern Illinois. We pulled out a few data points about Lake County that you probably already know. The data about the county and its cities and villages paints just one picture of your communities. There is much more to know and understand about how you serve your residents, your vision for the future, and investments you plan to make in your infrastructure. Each county and each municipality are important parts of the larger region of Northeastern Illinois. Lake County and your 52 municipalities belong to a large and complex region that has significant assets and challenges. We have aging infrastructure and new technologies. We live in rural and in urban communities. And we have a broad-based economy, but with significant disparity in access to jobs, transportation, and opportunities. So let's think about this region of Northeastern Illinois, its future, and what the future might hold for your communities. First, some context about this enormous region we live in. In the 7 counties, we are 8.6 million people living in 284 municipalities. 2/3 of the state of Illinois, those residents, live in the 7 counties between Wisconsin and Indiana. And we have 3 more cities in our region than the entire state of Washington. Our region also covers a lot of real estate, 4,000 square miles, which is twice the size of the state of Delaware. In fact, our region is the 3rd largest metropolitan region in the United States, behind New York and Los Angeles, and just ahead of Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. Northeastern Illinois has an extraordinary transportation infrastructure. It includes almost 30,000 miles of federal roads and 3,650 bridges. It encompasses a legacy train and rail system with 7,200 miles of transit rail lines that help people reach destinations, and a freight rail system that helps move $3 trillion in goods through our region each year. This transportation infrastructure also includes about 1,646 rail crossings. I say about, I mean specifically that many rail crossings, and 242 metro stations. All of this infrastructure supports a large and interdependent economy in Northeastern Illinois, which generates a gross regional product of $665 billion a year. This transportation infrastructure, as you know, requires continuing investment to improve and maintain it, much less modernize it. And our region is faced with a multi-billion-dollar funding gap just to operate and maintain the current system. The new federal infrastructure law represents an historic opportunity if the region works together. Our region's interdependence is affected by challenges that don't recognize municipal or county lines. We are all affected by freight congestion, unpredictable commute times, traffic fatalities, and environmental challenges such as air quality and flooding. More than half of our region's residents commute outside their home county for work, and this is true for Lake County as well. No municipality or county can address these issues, especially when resources are limited. These regional issues require collaboration and coordination, both to identify solutions and to fund them. Northeastern Illinois competes for millions, in fact, billions of dollars of federal dollars to build and maintain this transportation infrastructure. And federal law requires a metropolitan planning agency, that would be CMAP, to make plans for and to coordinate the allocation of that federal funding. CMAP doesn't build the transportation infrastructure, or even manage the construction projects. That's what you do. And federal law requires CMAP, the regional planning authority, to secure and program federal transportation funding for those projects. CMAP also studies and generates the socioeconomic data and transportation traffic modeling to support the allocation of the funding. The new Federal Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, the IIJA, presents a significant opportunity to make key investments in our region. We can't miss out on this once-in-a-generation opportunity. I have more about the IIJA in a minute, and my colleagues will be joining me. And as much as the agency's focus is on local investments in communities such as yours, we are also required to plan for the region's longer-term needs and prioritize those infrastructure investments. When we think about, so our long-term planning horizon is to the year 2050 right now. When you think about the year 2050, today's high schoolers will be in their mid-40s in 2050. Will they still reside in Northeastern Illinois? What can we do to keep them here? What type of community will they choose to live in? How will they get around? Can we make investments in our infrastructure now so that we can meet the next generation's expectations for life in this region? Your annual contributions help us deepen and expand those investments. Here are just a few examples of what your contributions help us do for the region. With these dollars, local matches, we are able to leverage $200 million a year in federal construction funds, which have now been doubled under the IIJA. Your contributions help fund the work of 12 dedicated staff, the planning liaisons who work for the councils of mayors and government and help keep the federal funds going to your projects. CMAP also provides planning, data, analytical support to partner agencies and to all of you. The Community Data Snapshot, for example, provides valuable insights into local and regional demographic trends. And perhaps we've worked with a lot of you on local planning projects through our local technical assistance program. CMAP guides the federal funding for core infrastructure programs in our region and is the required channel through which the federal funding and some state funding flows. That funding goes to you, villages, counties, and transit providers, to programs for specific purposes, as you know, to resurface roads, purchase low emissions locomotives from Metra, to build bike and pedestrian trails, to fix intersections, and to repair bridges. For example, as Mike has already shared with you, the programming marks for the Surface Transportation Program Shared Fund will produce $10 million to $11.5 million for Lake County over each of the next 5 years. The councils of mayors, you represent decentralization of the decisions on where most of this funding gets allocated. And the dedicated staff, those planning liaisons who are funded by CMAP, provide key services to actively manage the program, and we're grateful for the work they do. Given the complexity and interdependency of Northeastern Illinois' transportation infrastructure and economy, it only makes sense to coordinate our regional efforts. We have opportunities to secure more federal funding for Northeastern Illinois for both regional and your local projects. And we can get more done together. The new IIJA, which was signed into law in November and funded just in March, is significant and could be game-changing. So we're preparing now for this new funding because Northeastern Illinois has to be ready to make the most of this opportunity through our coordination and collaboration. We can each do our part to ensure that we don't lose the funds that this region needs and deserves. The IIJA includes funding for important infrastructure investments, such as bridge repair, electric vehicle charging, ADA improvements for public transit, and making our transportation infrastructure more resilient to extreme weather. And CMAP's job here is to evaluate this new legislation and its policies and apply them to the new funding programs, to the current funding programs. We'll also be helping to prepare for the new eligibilities and the increased funding for core regional programs. And we'll work with you to coordinate around the law's competitive opportunities so we can do this as a region. CMAP has already committed funding for some of these programs, and your local contributions help unlock more funding. I mentioned electric vehicle infrastructure and ADA planning, and we have opportunities for additional federal funding to support housing coordination, and water supply planning, pavement plans, and carbon reduction plans. These are programs we'll leave on the table without your local contributions. The federal government requires CMAP to have a local match for access to federal planning funds. 5 years ago, CMAP instituted an annual municipal contribution paid by almost every municipality in this region that serves as that local match. The local contributions from all of you, combined with other municipalities in the region, total $880,000 a year. And that $880,000 means that CMAP can leverage more federal funds for regional projects. We know that you pay other fees and local matches. Northeastern Illinois has just one metropolitan planning organization that serves you. And yes, because of federal requirements and because of our common commitment to maintaining and modernizing the regional infrastructure, we do this together. The required local match, which cannot be federal funds, has now been increased from $880,000 to $1.5 million a year, which means that CMAP will be increasing your local contribution by 20% this year, the first step forward, and then 4% in subsequent years. In the meantime, the Illinois Department of Transportation has agreed to cover the shortfall and give us time to gradually increase the amount of local contributions so we can reach the required $1.5 million a year. For the long term, CMAP intends to create a more sustainable and diverse funding base by working with the state legislature, working with IDOT, and with other agencies, because your local contributions are not the only solution to this funding challenge. This is a coordinated effort to consider the investments we need to make together to prepare the region, its cities and villages, and its businesses and residents for what is to come, anticipating the known and the unknown and addressing those many challenges that cross our borders. We do this together with your local contributions that serve as the match to bring more federal funding to Northeastern Illinois. When we have the opportunity to plan for our region's future's needs and invest in transportation infrastructure, we can secure and optimize the funding that those investments require. This is our thanks to you for your contributions that keep the system working, for your contribution this year and in the future that will help us all leverage more federal funds to critical infrastructure. So thank you, and we are glad to answer your questions about the IIJA, local contributions, and these specific funding opportunities and provide more information. Thanks so much. Thanks, Mike.
Quite a presentation. We didn't know there were 3,650 bridges in the Collier County area.
Well, our business is data, and we're able to generate a lot of it. Let the data work for you too.
Yes, yes, indeed. I'm impressed. Okay, good. Thank you. Any
Mayor.
question? Any question on Ms. Grover's presentation? Questions, compliments? All right, good. Thank you again for that. Mr. Clemens.
I have no other business today. Anthony Safali, did you want to introduce yourself as our new RTA representative?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Just wanted to say hey real quick. My name is Anthony Sfali. I'm with the Regional Transportation Authority. Many of you may know me. I was at CMAP before that, so hey to all my CMAP friends on the call. I'll just be the point of contact for a lot of the stuff. Mike, a lot of you have my contact. I'll share it with you afterward too, and look forward to working with all of you.
Great.
All right.
Good.
I have
Thank you for
no-
being here. Go ahead, Mike.
I have no other business today, and I have not received any public comment.
All right. It sounds like then our next meeting will be August 25th, 2022 for the, that says Transportation Committee agenda meeting.
Yeah, my apologies on that. That will be for the full council. The Transportation Committee will meet August 18th, the full council August 25th.
Good. Any other questions or support for the good of the order? And if not, I will declare this meeting adjourned. And have a great 4th of July holiday weekend. Stay safe on all of those newly repaved roads we've put together.
Happy 4th, Mayor. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Mr.
Everyone.
Chairman.